There was once a dynasty that made all of Ngorongoro bow. Five brothers, one coalition, one kingdom. They ruled the grasslands through strength, loyalty, and relentless battles. But can a legend truly last forever? This is the story of Lake Quintet. Lake Quintet, the most powerful lion coalition in Ngorongoro, in the highlands of Tanzania, the Ngorongoro crater exists like a world sealed off from everything beyond it. Surrounded by sheer cliffs rising more than 600 meters high, it is one of the most extraordinary ecosystems in Africa. Its cool climate and abundant prey have made Ngorongoro an ideal land for lion coalitions. But that very isolation has also forced the lions here to face generations of inbreeding. In 2013, a coalition from outside crossed over the crater rim, bringing with it a precious new bloodline. From that moment, a stronger generation of lions was born. Lake Quintet was part of that extraordinary generation. In the Lake Pride, five brothers, known as LK115, LK116, LK117, LK120 and LK123, let out their first roars. Under the protection of their mothers and the entire pride, they grew up together across the vast grasslands. Among them, LK123 was the weakest. He often became exhausted after moments of play, but he was never left behind. Whenever LK123 slowed down, his four brothers would quietly stop and wait for him to catch up. But in Ngorongoro, peace never lasts long. As the ruling coalitions began to weaken, male lions from the outside once again tried to cross the cliffs and take control of the crater. A struggle for power pulled the Lake Pride into the spiral of survival. In a single night, the five brothers lost their greatest support and were forced to leave the land where they had been born. Months of wandering along the edge of the crater, facing hunger and stronger coalitions, forged them into a bond rarely seen in the wild. For LK123, it was the harshest period of all. But his four brothers never abandoned him. Those trials prepared the five brothers for the day they would return to Ngorongoro together, determined to claim the land that had heard their first roars. Nearly 2 years after being driven from their homeland, 5 lion silhouettes appeared once again along the edge of the Ngorongoro crater. The years of living on their own had transformed the young lions they once were into 5 fully grown males with powerful bodies, dark manes, and an exceptionally strong bond. But they did not rush to reclaim the territory. For days, the 5 brothers quietly patrolled along the borders of Ngorongoro. They sniffed out fresh scent marks, listened to the roars of the occupying coalition, and silently studied their rivals' movement patterns. For male lion coalitions, victory does not come from strength alone, but from patience. An attack launched at the wrong moment can make the entire coalition pay the price. Then, the opportunity finally came. When the rival coalition temporarily split up during a patrol, Lake Quintet immediately advanced deep into the heart of the crater. The 5 brothers quickly spread into a crescent formation. The open ground was sealed off. The escape route toward the cliffs was cut off. As the dust slowly settled, the balance of power in Ngorongoro had completely changed. Lake Quintet officially seized control of the crater's core, beginning one of the most powerful lion dynasties ever recorded in Ngorongoro. No longer exiles, Lake Quintet had become the new masters of Ngorongoro. The 5 brothers crossed the grasslands, marking their territory with roars, scent, and claw marks carved into acacia trunks. Their presence quickly sent changes rippling through the entire ecosystem. The zebra herds stopped grazing all at once. With sharp eyesight and a strong instinct for living in groups, they immediately lifted their heads, scanning in multiple directions before slowly moving away from the danger zone. On the other side of the grassland, Thompson's gazelles also grew more alert. As one of the fastest antelope species in Africa, they can burst forward at speeds of more than 80 kilometers per hour. But speed only matters when the predator is still in front of them. That is why they always choose to detect danger early, rather than wait until they are forced to run. On a nearby acacia branch, a leopard silently dragged its prey higher into the tree. Unlike lions, leopards live alone and often store their food in trees to keep stronger predators from stealing the prize they spent hours hunting. Even the baboon troop changed its behavior. The adult males quickly formed a defensive line along the edge of the troop, while the females and young were moved onto higher rock outcrops. For them, detecting danger early has always been the most effective form of defense. Lake Quintet hardly needed to hunt. The mere presence of the five brothers was enough to make the entire ecosystem adjust its behavior. In Ngorongoro, power is measured not only by strength, but by the ability to make every creature around you change its actions simply because you have arrived. The five members of Lake Quintet required an enormous amount of food to maintain their massive bodies and powerful muscles, essential for daily patrols that stretched for many kilometers. For a coalition of 5 fully grown males, small prey was rarely enough to feed the entire group. To survive, they had no choice but to target larger prey, accepting far greater risks in return. In the distance, a herd of African buffalo slowly made its way toward a patch of fresh grass. Living in herds, African buffalo rely on collective strength to defend themselves against predators. The moment one individual senses danger, the entire herd quickly tightens its formation, with the adult bulls forming the outer line to protect the calves and weaker members. But that night, an old bull gradually fell behind. The gap between him and the herd grew wider. Lake Quintet seized the opportunity immediately. LK123 was the first to close in, deliberately drawing the old bull's attention. Within seconds, his 4 brothers emerged from different directions, tightening the encirclement. Against the coalition's nearly flawless coordination, the aging buffalo was quickly overwhelmed. By the time silence returned to the night, Lake Quintet had secured a meal large enough to feed all 5 brothers. It was more than just a successful hunt. It revealed the true source of Lake Quintet's strength throughout their years of ruling Ngorongoro. Not the power of the strongest individual, but 5 brothers who always fought as a single body. The next 4 years marked the golden age of Lake Quintet. The 5 brothers gradually took control of several major lion prides throughout the crater, including the Lake Pride, Munge Mabinti, and Lagunita. Their dominance brought not only fertile territory and prey-rich hunting grounds, but also made them the most influential males in the Ngorongoro lion population. Hundreds of cubs carrying the bloodline of Lake Quintet were born under the protection of these prides, helping create a healthier new generation after decades of inbreeding within the crater. But even the greatest years eventually faded into the past. After nearly a decade of battles, time began leaving its mark on the 5 black-maned kings. Nightly patrols spanning dozens of kilometers became increasingly exhausting. Their manes remained magnificent, but their endurance and speed were no longer what they had once been. LK123 changed the most. Already physically weaker than his brothers since cubhood, he gradually began falling behind during patrols and spent more and more time resting beneath shrubs along the edge of the grasslands. His decline soon attracted opportunists. Spotted hyenas possess an exceptionally keen sense of smell, allowing them to detect old, weak, or injured animals from remarkable distances. They rarely risk confronting a healthy adult male lion, but they never miss the moment when an opponent's strength begins to fade. This time, their target was LK123. One by one, the hyenas silently emerged, tightening the circle around him. Though exhausted, the aging king struggled to his feet and released a warning roar. Just as the hyena clan prepared to charge, LK123's 4 brothers appeared, forcing them to retreat. Once again, Lake Quintet had protected their youngest brother. But it was also the first time the 5 brothers realized there was one enemy that not even the coalition, that had once ruled Ngorongoro could defeat. Time. In June 2024, LK123 was no longer recorded in Ngorongoro. Researchers believe he most likely died at the age of 11 after battling illness, although the exact cause of death remains unknown. His passing left the first empty place in what had once been an unbeatable formation. From that moment on, the balance of power in Ngorongoro slowly began shifting toward a new generation. On the far side of the crater rim, 3 young males, LA132, LA133, and LA137, quietly watched the patrols of the 4 aging kings. They did not rush to attack. Instead, they waited patiently for time to finish its work. In November 2025, the opportunity finally arrived. The young trio suddenly emerged and intercepted LK116 during a solitary patrol. The confrontation was fierce, but brief. Though he fought until his very last breath, LK116 ultimately fell to the youth and numerical advantage of his opponents. The 3 remaining brothers quietly walked over to LK116's body. Their deep, raspy roars echoed across the grasslands, a final farewell to the brother who had fought beside them for nearly a lifetime. From 5 brothers who had once ruled nearly all of Ngorongoro, Lake Quintet was now reduced to just 3 aging kings. But nature has never paused for the passing of any king. As one dynasty came to an end, the cycle of life continued throughout the crater. In another corner of the grasslands, a herd of African elephants slowly made its way toward a waterhole. The older females formed a tight protective circle, guiding the calves into the center before the herd continued on. For elephants, the herd is family, and protecting the young always comes before every danger. Farther away, a black rhinoceros mother stood silently among the thorn bushes, keeping her calf safely behind her. Despite her poor eyesight, she constantly tested the air and rotated her ears toward every unfamiliar sound. At the slightest sign of danger, she would charge without hesitation to protect her only calf. Along the cliffs surrounding the crater, a martial eagle remained quietly on guard beside its nest. Its piercing eyes never stopped scanning the vast grasslands below. Every hunting flight had only one purpose: to bring food back to the chicks waiting on the rocky ledge. Life goes on that way, The last three members of Lake Quintet continued to walk the familiar paths in silence. Though their bodies were covered with the scars of time, they carried on with their final patrols, protecting the lion prides and the new generation of cubs carrying the bloodline the five brothers had left behind. From young lions once forced to leave their homeland, Lake Quintet rose together to build one of the most powerful coalitions in the history of Ngorongoro. And although their dynasty eventually came to an end, the bond between the five brothers will forever remain the greatest legacy they left upon this land. Today, the challenges facing African lions no longer come only from rival coalitions. Climate change, shrinking habitats, and increasing conflict between humans and wildlife are making the future of this iconic predator more uncertain than ever. Conservation studies show that Africa's wild lion population has declined by approximately 43% over the past 2 decades. In Ngorongoro, prolonged droughts and fluctuations in prey populations continue to place additional pressure on the survival of lion coalitions. Protecting places like Ngorongoro is not just about preserving a single species. It is about safeguarding the balance of an entire ecosystem that has existed for thousands of years. If you enjoy authentic stories about the natural world, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again on our next journey into the world of wildlife.